Hello. Today's class we're going to practice a sequence that is similar to a Himalayan Institute sequence. We'll do just a basic traditional yoga practice, including a little inversion towards the end, and then a tiny bit of pranayama and a very, very short meditation. Those of you that would like to meditate longer are welcome just to stay on your own and finish meditating at your own pace. Take a moment to get comfortable. As you shift your weight side to side, pull the flesh out from under the sit bones, and as you do that, don't just pull the flesh out, but reach the sit bone back. That's what we're really trying to accomplish, is to reposition the pelvis, to rotate the pelvis forward. Then from there, lift through the waist, through the sternum, through the chest, through the collarbones, and then broaden the shoulder girdle. At first, you may not feel much movement there, you may not have much consciousness there, but if you just keep thinking about broadening through the shoulders, over time, your body will kind of wake up in this area. You'll become more conscious of this area. The muscles will begin to follow. Close your eyes and take a moment to pay attention to your breath. Allow the chest to be still, the front of the chest, and breathe into any other areas that feel natural to you. Your back, your low back, the pelvic floor, the abdomen, the sides, the lower ribs. And allow the front of the chest to be neutral. Allow the breath to be a little slower, but still very comfortable. If you slow the breath down too much, it creates anxiety rather than calming the nervous system. So find that balance point where you're slowing down the breath enough for it to have a relaxing effect on the body and the mind without slowing down so far that it triggers anxiety. As you're doing this, begin relaxing your face, your forehead, your eyebrows, your eyelids, the eyeballs, the jaws, the lips, the tongue, and the mouth. Stretch the exhale so it's a little longer than the inhale. And use that longer exhalation to relax all the muscles in the face, behind the eyes, the root of the tongue, the jaws. And then very delicately you just begin to float your head around to the left or to the right. Turning, twisting, floating. Focus your attention not on the movement itself, but on the sensations you're creating. Focus on the feeling of the movement. And then move in such a way that it feels good, natural, healthy, gentle, safe. Take 5 or 6 breaths. As we slow the movement of the body, as we slow the movement of the breath, the mind also begins to slow. We want to give the body, the breath, the mind time to slow down a little bit before we start any big movements or strenuous yoga. Coming back to center. Opening up into a seated twist, leading with the right shoulder, crossing the left hand. Lift, expand, rotate, and then breathe. 3 or 4 breaths. Emphasize lengthening through the spine and expanding the shoulder girdle. De-emphasize the rotation. Rotating just enough to make it interesting. Then take a couple more complete breaths. Utilizing the full volume of your lungs. Coming back to center, switching sides. Leading with the left hand, reaching behind, cross the right hand. Lift, expand, rotate. And then breathing into the second side. Couple more breaths. And coming back to center. Circling with the rib cage, first one direction, and then the opposite. And then rolling up the shoulders individually and then together. And then reverse directions. And then individually in the reverse direction. Coming back to neutral, take a breath or two and just sit quietly, notice how you're feeling and what, if any, effects of the first few minutes of our pranayama and movement have made on the mind and on the body. And then coming to your hands and knees for cat-cow. Knees hip width, hands shoulder width. Spread the fingers really wide with the little finger turned out, middle finger pointing straight ahead. Spread the weight evenly between the fingers, between the knuckles of all the fingers, including the thumb, and between the base of the wrist. On your next inhalation, lift the tailbone, drop the belly, open the chest, and then look up as you finish breathing in. On the exhale, tuck the tailbone, round the low back, mid-back, upper back, tuck the chin. On your own, continue. Moving with the breath. And back to neutral. Tuck your toes under, walk your hands in close, lift your knees, walk your hands in towards your feet, and then either place your hands on your thighs or hang into a forward bend. Anyone with low back issues or tight hamstrings, come up higher, place your hands on the thighs, and then keeping your knees bent a little bit, just enough so that when you lean in and lower the stomach and lift the tailbone, you feel sensations in the belly of the muscle rather than the area behind the knees. So if you feel anything behind the knees, bend the knees even more. Now move the stretch into the left leg by bending the right knee a little and then leaning into the left leg. Bend the left knee and shift the stretch to the right leg. Go side to side. Make sure the stretch and the sensation of stretching feels pleasant, not unpleasant. Take a breath or two to finish. Now Now balance the stretch evenly between both legs. And then when you're ready, buckle the knees as you roll up and slip the hips underneath you as you're rolling back up to standing. Working now with Vinyasa Sun Salutation and then a 12-step Sun Salutation. From prayer position. On an inhalation, float the arms overhead, arch back slightly, firm the abdomen, lift the chest, sink the shoulder blades down the back, and lift the chest up. On the exhale, reach the hips back, and then either come down part way, supporting weight with your hands on your thighs, or those of you that prefer can release all the way. Roll up, buckle the knees, slip the hips under you, float the arms overhead, finish breathing in. On the exhale, reach the hips back and release part way or all the way. On your own, 5 or 10 more repetitions. Remember, each time you move into your overhead stretch, lift the pelvic floor, firm the abdomen, draw the navel in and up and lift the chest. Find your own rhythm of breathing. Couple more breaths. Hold your next overhead stretch. Lift the left heel, flare the right ribs. Lift the right heel, flare the left ribs. Side to side. A little bit of a back bend. Supported forward bend. Take a breath. Relax with the exhale. And then just exploring to see how much further you can relax into a forward bend. Don't push into discomfort though. One more deep breath. Let it fall away with a sigh. Roll up. Buckle the knees, slip the hips under you, come back to standing. Make sure you got lots of clear space behind you. 2 repetitions of a full 12-step Sun Salutation. And we'll hold Cobra and down dog for a couple of breaths when we get there. Sweep up. Breathe in. Swan dive. Now bend your knees enough that you can touch the floor. And then make sure your fingers are even or slightly behind the big toe, not in front. That'll force your hips back behind your center of gravity slightly. Now take the right foot, reach it as far back as you can into a deep lunge. Hold your breath and step the left foot back. Now on the exhale, if you have the strength, come down in plank. If you don't, bring your knees to the ground first and then come down. On an inhale, lift the head, shrug the shoulders, lift the shoulders, draw the shoulder blades together and down the back and reach the chest forward. Press the tops of the feet into the floor. Now try and find all the muscles in your back and then engage them where it feels good. Make sure you aren't pushing with your hands. Your hands are just supporting a little bit of weight, if any. Downward facing dog. Spread the fingers wide. Middle finger pointing straight ahead. Tuck the toes. And then reaching the hips up and back. Bend both knees a little bit or a lot, depending on how flexible you are. And then work on bringing the chest closer to the feet. And then pointing the tailbone towards the sky. And then extending and spiraling through the arms and legs. 2 or 3 more breaths. Step the right foot up. Big lunge on an inhale. Step the left foot up. Exhale. Overhead stretch. Back to center. Breathe in. On the exhale, release the arms. On the inhale, sweep overhead. Swan dive, breathing out. Find the floor with your fingertips behind your big toe. Take the left foot as far back as you can into a deep lunge. Hold your breath for just a moment as you step back into plank. And then either bring the knees to the floor first or just press down. Pull the chest forward, roll the shoulders back, press the feet into the floor. 2 or 3 breaths. Focus not on how high you're lifting, but the quality of the sensations you're creating. So the muscles are working, but they're also happy in their work. 1 more breath. Downward facing dog. Drawing the chest through towards the feet. Float the shoulder blades away from the feet. Point the tailbone to the ceiling. Reach the heels towards the floor. 2 or 3 more breaths. Broaden the shoulder girdle, hollow the inner armpits. Leading with the left foot. Step through for a big lunge. Breathe in. Right foot stepping up on the exhale. Overhead stretch. And back to center. And then we'll warm up just a little more with chair pose. We'll start off focusing on the upper body. When your upper body gets tired, we'll lower the arms and then continue working the legs. When your legs get tired, that'll be your signal to come out. Flip the arms overhead. Lift the pelvic floor, draw the abdomen in, lift the chest up. Take not the hands, but the shoulders back. Think about bringing your hands forward a 1/16 of an inch and taking your shoulders back 2 inches at the same time. Now from here, bend your knees a little bit, reach your hips back a little bit, and then pull the shoulders back and down, and lift the chest up. And then if this is too easy, reach your hips further down, further back. Now work the upper body, work the shoulders and the back muscles so that they get tired first, before the legs. And there'll be a perfect moment for you to lower your arms. Now once you lower the arms, focus on the legs. And if you aren't getting enough workout, take your hips down and back a little further. Keep the navel pulled in to protect the low back. When your legs get tired, put your hands on your thighs, straighten the legs a little bit, and then rest. If you need more time in chair pose to work, don't rush. Those of you, though, that have gotten what you need from the pose, take a few breaths here resting, allowing the breath to normalize. And then slip the hips under you as you roll up. Trikonasana. We'll go to the right. Turn the right foot out 90 degrees. Turn the left foot in at 60. Shift your hips to the left. Tilt the pelvis. If you know how to spiral the right leg, go ahead and add that. Reach the hips away. Tilt the pelvis. And then finding a comfortable position for the hand to rest on the thigh. The other hand can stay on the hip or float the arm out. Now root through both feet, and then like a tree growing, expand from the roots through the core. Take 4 or 5 more breaths. Switching sides. As you come to the second side, shift or kick the hips out away from you as you tilt the pelvis. Rest your hand on the thigh or the shin or the floor. Roll the shoulders back, open the chest. The other hand rests on the hip or extends. Make sure your neck is comfortable. You can rotate the neck if that feels okay, but don't cramp the neck. If it doesn't feel natural, if it doesn't feel right to turn the head, then don't. Spiral the legs, root through the feet, and then expand. Imagine sap rising from the roots through the trunk into the branches and all the way out to the leaves. Let the prana rise up through the body. 2 or 3 breaths. Turn your feet pigeon toe and release into a forward bend. 2 or 3 breaths just to relax. Breathe deep, stretch the exhale into a sigh. Step your feet together, bend the knees, roll back up. Virabhadrasana 2. Step your feet wide again. Going back to the first side, turn the foot out, turn the back foot in, and then bend the front knee to 90 degrees. Virabhadrasana 2 here. If that's too easy, walk the feet wide or lunge deeper. Focus on the back leg. Straighten, strengthen, and spiral the back leg. Externally rotate the thigh, pull up and out on the thigh so that the back hip socket opens. And then root through the outer edge of the foot. And then bring some of that energy to the ball of the big toe, the front inner corner of the heel. Sink into that back hip, float the arms, drop the shoulders, open the heart, turn the head. And then on the front leg, lengthen the inner thigh, contract the outer thigh. So That knee swings out and both hips open. 3 or 4 breaths. Switching sides. Straighten the back leg, strengthen the back leg, sink into the back hip. Spiral the back leg, spiral the front leg, lengthen the inner thigh, contract the outer thigh. Float the arms, drop the shoulders, open the heart, turn the head. Two or 3 breaths. Finish with a forward bend, turning both feet in pigeon pose, and then releasing. You can either support weight with your hands on the legs or reach for the floor. 2 or 3 breaths. Step your feet together, roll back up, and now working with balance pose. If you aren't sure, tree pose. If you prefer to work with dancer, eagle, Virabhadrasana, 3, half moon, or any other expression of a balancing pose, feel free to pick your own pose. If you are new to balancing poses, it can be very helpful to stand facing a wall and close enough that you can reach out and just touch the wall lightly. Without leaning forward. If you have to lean forward, walk your feet up a little bit higher so you can stay perfectly centered and touch the wall. Pick a drishti, focal point. Find something you can hold onto with your eyes. And then on the right foot, spread the toes, shift your weight to the right, and then whatever pose you're planning on doing on your own, just floating up into it. If you aren't sure, tree pose. Bring the left foot to the calf, or draw the heel up to the groin, either well above or well below the knee. If you lose your balance, step out, relax, refocus, find your center, and then float back up into the pose again. Don't fight for the pose. You want a sense of floating, of steadiness, relaxation, and breathing. If you're struggling to find those qualities, just touch the wall lightly, just enough to help you find that sense of relaxation and grace. Over time, you won't need to use the wall as much or as often, and eventually you'll be able to relax into a position without using the wall at all. Take a breath or two. Float the arms down, release the foot, coming back to 2 feet. Now spread the toes on the left foot, shift your weight to the left, pick your drishti, your focal point, whatever it is you're going to hold on to with the eyes, or touch the wall with a fingertip if you prefer. If you're doing tree pose, float your foot up to the calf or bring the heel up higher to the groin. Find your balance. Hands in prayer position, or to make it a little easier, take the arms out horizontally. And if you want more challenge, take the arms to vertical. Now, focus on relaxing. Breathing. Find a steadiness that comes from relaxing into heaviness, not from tensing up. If you try to create steadiness by tightening, you'll create rigidity and fragility. When you find steadiness by dropping into it, you'll gain far more from your practice. Take another breath, or two, and then float your arms down. Release the leg, and then shake out. Roll the ankles around. And then reach the hips back and coming down into a supported forward bend. Take a breath or two. Decide whether to stay there or to lean into a deeper stretch. And then coming all the way down. And next we'll work with the back roll. So take your blanket and fold it so it's long and thin, and then roll from one end towards the other, keeping the middle part as tight as you can. If you have your own back roll, feel free to grab that and use that instead. Those of you using a blanket, remember, unroll the blanket to make it easier, roll it up more to make it more challenging. And we want this to be easy enough that you can relax, and large enough that it's not boring, that you feel like you're actually getting a little benefit from it. Position the roller with your shoulders just slightly over the edge of the roller, and then your arms can extend or bend or support the neck. Now over the next 5 minutes, we'll reposition several times. So this is your first position, and your goal is to breathe and relax. And if that is difficult, unroll the blanket enough that you can breathe and you can relax. Two or three breaths in this opening position. When you're ready to adjust, bend the knees, lift your hips just a 1/16 of an inch off the ground. And then using your legs to push, just roll over the top of your roller 1 inch. Not much, just an inch. And then set your hips down in such a way that you feel the roller has shifted down the back an inch or two. Maybe into the middle or just above the middle of the shoulder blades. Then turn your attention to breathing and relaxing. Each vertebra of the spine is different. If you hit a spot where you can't relax, that's where you need this the most, but you need to unroll the blanket so that you can relax into this problem area. 2 or 3 more breaths. And adjusting again, lifting the hips, pushing yourself over the top of the roller, setting the hips down. This time the roller should be in the below the midline of the shoulder blades, closer to the bottom tip of the shoulder blades. And then again, breathing and relaxing. Relax your face, your jaws, your lips, your tongue, your mouth. Stretch the exhale slightly into a sigh. Couple more breaths. And then lifting the hips, sliding over the top of the roller, setting the hips down, and the roller should be in the middle or just past the middle of the spine. Just at the base of the rib cage. Continuing in this manner, taking 4 or 5 breaths and then repositioning until the roller reaches the top of the pelvis. Go for 2 more minutes. If you finished early, go back to a favorite spot. 5 or 10 more breaths. If there's any area you've neglected that you haven't reached, just use this last 5 or 10 breaths to position the roller into those last few areas. When you're finished, bend the knees, lift the hips, and with your hands, pull the roller out from under you, and then lower the hips back to the floor. Bring the knees into your chest, rock side to side. Do a couple more cobras and down dogs to finish working, and then we'll be relaxing, and then Shavasana. So rolling to one side. Coming into Cobra. Start on your stomach. Walk the rib cage forward. Use your hands to help lift and reach the hips forward, and then set the lowest ribs on the floor. Bring the hands back well behind the shoulders. Lower the forehead to the floor, lengthening the back of the neck. Reach the feet away and then press the tops of the feet down. Shrug the shoulders, lift the shoulders. Find the shoulder blades, draw them into the spine, and then draw the shoulder blades down the back as you continue to hug the spine. And begin reaching the chest forward. Now, see how high you can lift without using your hands at all? And then think not about using your hands to lift higher, but think about using your hands in such a way that it improves the quality of sensations in the muscles that are working. downward facing dog. Lift the hips, reach the chest towards your feet. Move your inner armpits away from your feet. Even better, try to float your shoulder blades away from the feet as you draw your chest towards the feet. 4 or 5 breaths. Couple more breaths. One more Cobra. Walk the ribs forward, roll the shoulders back, press the feet down. This will be our last work for the back muscles. Try and give yourself, just the right amount of work. Think about Shavasana coming up and ask yourself, what's a perfect amount of work right now that will help you to relax more deeply and completely into Shavasana, and then more importantly, that will allow you to feel good the rest of the day, sleep well, and wake up refreshed tomorrow. There'll be a perfect moment when it's time for you to transition to down dog. This will be our last work for today's class. We'll be moving into pigeon in just a few moments. If you need a little more time to continue working, hold here. If on the other hand, you decide you're ready to start slowing down, bring the right knee forward. Slide the left leg back. You can come to your elbows or to your chest. Make sure the front knee feels okay. If it doesn't, experiment, adjust, reposition. If the front knee feels okay, then shift your attention to drawing a healthy, pleasant stretch, healthy, pleasant sensations into the left or the right thigh, hip, or buttocks. Breathe deep, stretch the exhale. Into a sigh. Two or three breaths. Switching sides. Push back into downward facing dog if you want to. Any transition is fine. When you're ready, bringing the left knee forward, sliding the right leg back. Experiment with the angle of the front leg to make sure that the knee joint feels safe and comfortable, no sensations in the joint itself. Then draw the stretch into the left outer thigh, hip, or buttocks. Adjust so any sensations are pleasant. And then focus on breathing and relaxing into those sensations. If it starts to feel good, you can even lean in to the stretch a little bit. Five or six more breaths. Next we'll be working with an inversion, and we'll do a variation of shoulder stand, and anyone that would like to push up into a full shoulder stand is welcome to. If you have two blankets, or even one blanket, that's preferable, and the blanket is folded once lengthwise and then twice to make a nice rectangle. And you want the folded edge to be nice and clean. Nice fold line there. And if you have a second blanket, you fold it the same size and shape, stack it on top. If you don't have any blankets, you can still do this, just don't push up as high. The main thing with your neck, the purpose of the blankets is to give more freedom so we don't cram the neck into the chest too much, so the back of the neck stays long. So if you're pushing up into the pose and you feel your head getting pressed into your chest and any discomfort at all, just come down enough that you're comfortable. Now I'm going to put the blankets fairly close to the wall, maybe one hand width away. So the most challenging part of this pose, a supported shoulder stand, is actually getting into position. So with my blankets maybe a hand width from the wall, maybe a little closer depending how flexible you are, you're going to end up with one shoulder here, your head here, and your shoulders back maybe an inch from the edge of the blanket. You don't want your shoulders out or hanging over the blanket. Now that's actually quite challenging to do if you don't know how to get in that position. So if you'll watch, I'm going to start off sitting sideways to the wall. I'm going to get my hips up against the wall, and then I'm going to place my left shoulder close to the left edge of the blanket and back about an inch or two from the edge. Then all I have to do is lift up and walk my hips over, and now you'll see that the shoulders are back from the edge, the head is extended. If you have trouble doing this, move your blankets a few inches further from the wall and try again. Now, for some of you, you may decide that this is a little bit too much, that you aren't comfortable, it doesn't feel safe, so you just scooch away just enough, not too far, just enough that your hips reach the floor and your legs are firm against the wall. And this is just legs up the wall, which is a classic inversion. And of the inversions, it's one of the more gentle, safe inversions. And here I focus on relaxing and breathing. So at any point, when you get tired of being in shoulder stand, or if you decide shoulder stand's not working for you, just scooch away enough that your hips reach the floor and then rest until we catch up with you. Now, for those of you that enjoy this pose and want to hold it and work into it more deeply, we can use our feet against the wall in order to begin pushing up. Now, as I roll up, my shoulders want to stay on the blanket. So if your shoulders start getting too close to the edge, come down, reposition, and then push up again. Now you can stop here, or you can bring your hips closer to vertical. If you start to get any pressure behind the eyes, the jaws, any unpleasant symptoms at all, come back down and rest in the position I showed you, legs up the wall. Now, for those of you that want to continue working, bring one foot away from the wall and use it as a counterbalance, extending it out over your head until the foot on the wall gets light. Then just bring it away from the wall an inch and keep it close to the wall, so if you get wobbly, you can touch your foot to the wall. Then bring both feet together. If you still feel confident, begin straightening up. Grab the ribs lower, closer to the shoulder blades, and then lift the ribs and bring the hips forward. Whatever position you end up in, make sure your neck feels okay. And you can hold here as long as you want to. Those of you that are ready to start down a little earlier, first bring one foot out over the head as a counterbalance, and with the other foot bend the knee and then find the wall with your toes. Then use that leg to slow yourself down as you roll back down towards the floor. When your hips reach the wall, just walk your shoulders away from the wall an inch or two until your hips reach the floor, and then bring your arms out to your side. So usually I recommend that students do about 5 minutes inversion a day minimum, and you can spend as much time in shoulder stand as you want, and then you finish in this position. So if you spend a minute in shoulder stand, then take another 4 minutes or so just to relax into a more passive inversion. While you're here, think of this as a chance to practice pranayama, breathing, and meditation. Allow the breath to be smooth, diaphragmatic, steady, slow. We'll take a couple more minutes, relaxing into the position. Five or six more breaths. One of the benefits of holding an inversion for a period of time is it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, but also it stimulates the vascular system, vasodilator and the vasoconstrictor nerves, two of the largest nerves in the body, and they regulate blood pressure throughout the body. And by turning upside down, it throws the entire circulatory system out of balance. Where there was high pressure, there's low, and vice versa. And that stimulates the nervous system to come in and make corrections. Constrict arteries in one area, open arteries in another to reestablish balance. And by doing that on a daily basis, it helps to keep the nervous system toned and the vascular system healthy. Just like any type of regular exercise helps to keep the body healthy. So too with the nervous system, so too with the arteries. Take a breath or two. So next we'll be working with a spinal twist and then Shavasana. So bend your knees, roll to one side, and then find some space where you can practice your reclining twist comfortably. You need a little bit of room to either side of you and room to lay down. Any twist is fine. If you aren't sure, bring both knees to your chest. Hug the knees, draw them in, and then roll to the left. Roll your whole body, including your shoulders. And with your left hand, anchor the top knee. The right hand reach up towards the ceiling, and then reach out. And then let the weight of the right arm help you to lower the right shoulder towards the floor. If your shoulder hits the ground and you don't have any stretch, bring the arm up to vertical, straighten the left leg away from you and touch the right knee to the floor, and then come back into the twist again. Now if you have any discomfort in the right shoulder or the right arm, experiment, bending, straightening, changing the angle or the rotation. If that doesn't work, you could put a pillow under the arm or just bring your hand over your heart. Make sure that nothing is complaining, that every part of your body is either neutral or happy. Then focus on breathing deeply with a nice, deep, complete breath. Breathing into all the different areas of the lungs except for the chest, and then at the very end of the inhale, allowing the chest and shoulder to expand and lift as you finish breathing in. And then as you breathe out, let the arm and shoulder get heavy. 3 or 4 more breaths. When you're finished, come back to center. And then whatever version you did, repeat it on the second side. If you aren't sure, bring both knees to your chest, hug the knees in tight, roll to your right, use your right hand to anchor, and then stretch the left arm up and out to turn your head to follow. Again, if this is too easy, straighten the bottom leg away from you and cross the top knee over, and then hold it down towards the floor enough that you get a stretch. Breathe deep. Relax into the exhale. Take a breath or two. And hug both knees in. Rock side to side. Closing with Shavasana. Knees can stay bent or extend, or put a blanket rolled up or bolster under the knees, whatever feels more natural and comfortable. Lift your head, look right down the center of the spine, make sure the feet are spread evenly, the back is lengthened and symmetrical, and then keep lengthening the back of the neck. You can even use one hand to stroke or to draw the back of the neck long as you lower your head to the floor. If you have a lot of hair, that can be very helpful. Just pull the hair out of the way. Then let your arms release at about a 45-degree angle or closer to the hips if it feels better. Now turning your attention to the breath, breathing diaphragmatically. Feel the belly rise and fall as you breathe in and out. Relax the face, the neck, the shoulders, the arms, the hands, the fingers. Feet, the ankles, the calves, the knees, the thighs. Loosen hips, relax the buttocks. The low back, the belly, the kidneys. The ribs, the chest, the shoulders. Back of the neck, and soften the throat. Jaws, the lips, the tongue, the mouth, cheeks, and especially the eyeballs, space behind, beneath, and around the eyes. The eyebrows, the forehead, the temples, soft and hollow. Scalp and the crown. slowly, lazily. Oh, moving into a stretch. Yawning. Stretching. And when you're ready, roll to one side. Take a breath or two as you lay on your side. Focus now on the inhalation and breathe in to draw prana, life force energy from the breath. And then push up to a comfortable seated position. We'll be sitting for 3 or 4 minutes. So take just a second to make sure you're comfortable. And we'll do just maybe a minute of breath of fire and follow that with about a minute of alternate nostril and then a minute of meditation. Feel free though to make this your own practice and to continue as long as you'd like with any or all of those practices. Breath of fire. Take a deep breath. Alternate nostril. Breathe in through one side, through one nostril. Switch your fingers, exhale through the second side. And breathe in through the second side. Switch to breathe out. On your own, continue. Lengthen the inhale and the exhale, and give the inhale and the exhale equal preference. Remember, you switch nostrils at the top of the inhale. You don't change at the bottom, just at the top. As you continue, use less pressure on the nose. Rather than pressing, just touch more lightly. And then don't press at all, just touch one side of the nostril as you breathe in. Touch the opposite side as you breathe out. Imagine that that is enough, that is sufficient to shift at least some of the air from one nostril to the other. Continue to practice, but without using your hands at all. Let both hands rest in your lap. Place your attention in one nostril and feel cool air moving in through that nostril on the inhale. Then place your attention on the opposite nostril and feel warm air leaving, moist and warm air exhaling. Imagine that just with your attention, you can divert air from one nostril to the other. And notice the quality of your consciousness, of your mind, of your breath. And of your body. And without any effort, just float into a more expansive, open position. And the more expansive and floating we become, the more freely prana can begin to flow through the body, through the mind, through the breath. And then bringing your hands together over the heart. Thank you so much for joining me in this practice. I hope you are doing well and look forward to being able to practice in person with everyone again soon. Namaste.